Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan McNeil. Thanks very much for tuning in. On today's episode, I want to talk about something that I've brought up in the past. I just want to circle back around to it. I spoke a few episodes ago about putting together or organizing a group of people. I talked about needing to organize, needing some kind of civic movement or association or whatever we end up calling it. But I know that for a lot of people, that sounds a bit high level. So today, I want to explain in real terms what I'm talking about. Not political science terms, not consultant talk, just regular life. Because here's the truth of the matter: most people don't follow politics, and most people don't care about structure of government, and most people don't sit around debating budgets or bylaws. They care about common sense and their family, and they care about their work, and they care about not having their lives interfered by stupidity. And that's exactly why this movement needs to exist. Because all of the cultural nonsense, all of the ideological crap, all of the virtue signaling, all of the useless distractions, all of that stuff is government manufactured. In real life, nobody is fighting about this stuff. Nobody is debating pronouns on a job site. Nobody's fighting about gender theory when they're dropping their kids off at hockey. Nobody's trying to solve racism at the grocery store. That's all government. That's all political class theater. It's all bureaucracy inventing problems so they can pretend to be the heroes. Real people don't live that way. So when I talk about forming a movement, the foundation is simple. It's a movement of ordinary, rational, common sense people who are tired of being ruled by the people who live in this fantasy world. And I want to give it some practical examples so people understand what I'm referring to here. I'm talking about things like Halifax Council wanting to ditch Twitter because Elon Musk offends them. I'm talking about throwing millions at ideological pet projects while basic services fall apart. I'm talking about schools pushing nonsense on our children and indoctrinating them instead of educating them. I'm talking about housing being a complete disaster. And the number one reason for that is because the bureaucracy that exists is a nightmare. I'm talking about contracts going to friends instead of to the best bid. And I'm talking about city halls wasting money while telling you they don't have the budget for it. People don't need spreadsheets to understand those things. They see it every week. And that's the point, you see. This movement is not about political ideology. It's about basic competence. It's about adults making adult decisions. It's about saying, we're done with all this bullshit. We're done arguing about your feelings. We're going to run our city or our province or our country on common sense from now on. If your feelings are hurt, then I guess you'll have to vote for somebody else. Now, I want to talk about this podcast for a minute because it ties directly into what I'm trying to do here. Look, if this was 1995, I wouldn't be on YouTube. I'd be on an AM radio station. I'd call them up and say, look, how much does it cost for me to get an hour on a Sunday morning or a Friday evening or whatever time it makes sense? And I'd use that hour to say, look, people, there's stuff going on here that isn't going to fix itself. I'd want to see if anyone out there feels the same way. And if you do, maybe we should organize and do something about this. But technology has changed and it's 2025 and the AM radio show is now a podcast on YouTube. And the reason I'm doing this is because this is the most effective way to get the message out there without trying to ask for somebody's permission. People have asked me if I'm trying to be a politician or become some kind of media guy. And the answer very clearly is no. And it's not that I couldn't. I can clean up nice. I can rehearse a script. I could throw some information on a teleprompter, look at the camera, polish up a sentence and make the whole thing look very professional. I have that ability. If I wanted to present myself like a guy interviewing for political office, I could definitely do that. But I don't want to. That's not me. I don't want this to sound like content delivery. I don't want it to sound like it's rehearsed. I want it to sound like it's actually a conversation. If I'm here talking to myself, then I guess, sure, maybe it sounds like it's a radio show. If I'm talking to somebody else, then it should sound like a real conversation. I don't ever want this to sound like it's some sort of audition. And I'd also like to make something else clear because I don't want anyone to confuse this. This podcast is not the movement. This isn't the organization. This isn't the official anything. This is just me on my own personal platform talking through something that needs to exist. This is a guy in a hoodie and a hat sitting in front of a mic doing the only thing he knows how to do with the tools that he has right now. And when the actual movement comes together, when there's a team and a structure and the right people in the right roles, the media side will look much different. It'll be properly branded and properly organized and properly run and managed. It'll be much more polished than this. And it'll be managed by people who probably have a much better idea of what they're doing than I do. But until those people show up, until I find them or they find me, then this is the medium that I have. This is the bridge. This isn't the movement. This isn't the final product. This is just a beacon that I'm using to find the people who will build the real thing. And let's go back to where I was going with this. If anyone ever called me and said, "Hey, Ryan, tell me about your organization. Tell me what you're putting together here," I wouldn't sit there and read a mission statement. I would probably say something like, "What do you want to know? Ask me and I'll tell you." That's the energy I'm bringing here. And on the topic of presentation, anyone who ever meets me from this, if you swing by my office or we grab a coffee or we meet up to discuss things, you're going to find me in a pair of jeans and a collared shirt. And if it's after hours, you're going to get me in a pair of jeans and a hoodie and probably a ball cap. So I don't see the point in pretending to be someone else on camera. What you see here is what you'll see in real life. And I don't need a huge global following. This isn't about being an influencer for me. This isn't about going viral. What I need is maybe a handful of people, maybe not even that, maybe just a couple. People who actually know what they're doing and people who are competent and capable and want to fix things. The first few people in something like this are going to be the ones who do most of the work. I'm just going to be one of the guys talking about it. I'm going to be the guy putting together the team. I'm the one putting out the beacon so the right people can find each other. You could think of it like stapling posters on a telephone pole that say community meeting. Take your city back from mismanagement and incompetence and virtue signaling. It's at the fire hall Saturday morning. Come if you care. What I'm trying to do here is make sure that people look at this and say, okay, well, this is legit. This is being run by a real guy with real skin in the game, and there's no bullshit here. Now, my wife Amy asked me a question last night that a lot of people are probably thinking. She said, if you build a group like this, do you eventually get recognized? Do you need a certain number of people before you have any real power? And the answer is no. You never get formal power. That's not what this is. You get influence if you're honest with people you claim to represent. You get credibility if you tell them the truth and don't bend for nonsense. And eventually, you get something more important than official power. You become the voice of the common sense majority. And trust me, there is a common sense majority, a large one, but it's silent. This movement isn't about politics. This movement is about representing 90% of the people who just want their city and their province and their country to run properly and be managed by competent adults. And look, here's the thing. I'm not going to be fixing federal immigration policy. I'm not going to rewrite Kuzma. I'm not going to be negotiating trade deals with Trump. Although I would say I probably have a much better chance of doing that successfully than any of these clowns who are currently pretending to do it. And even if I ran in 3 years' time and I pulled off a miracle and somehow I end up elected as a member of parliament, well, I would still only be one of the 340 votes that get cast. But in your city, like here in Halifax, there are 17 votes on council. If you got 9 of those votes, including the mayor, then everything changes. Then you can have real impact on things like housing and permits and planning, local services, fiscal responsibility. That's where you can actually course correct, and that's where common sense wins if you organize. Now, one more thing I want to mention when it comes to the podcast. Every rational part of me says, Ryan, stop doing this. But I can't stop doing it because I think this is the only way right now for me to find the people I need to find. I'm doing it because I can't not do it. I'm not doing this because I think I'm uncovering some truth that nobody else sees. The truth is out there. Every lie, every scandal, every hypocrisy, people are exposing it every day online. Anyone with a functioning brainstem can tell you what's going on. I'm not trying to be the truth teller. I'm trying to be the organizer. I'm trying to be the guy who says, okay, we all see it. Now, what are we going to do about it? I'm not the superhero. I'm not the front man. I'm more like the guy that gathers the Avengers together. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm not applying for a job. I'm hiring for one. I'm looking for real talent, people who will actually do the heavy lifting. Now, me, I'm a small business owner. I'm a home builder. I'm a father. I'm a regular middle class guy who drives a half-ton truck and grabs a tea at Tim Hortons and swings through the subdivision and checks on my job sites and talks to my team and runs my business. I'm not supposed to be in this fight. Guys like me don't do politics. We don't run movements. But it's gotten so bad that people like me feel like we have to. And that alone should tell you how serious things are. And the purpose from here is pretty simple moving forward. I'm putting together a team. If you're one of those ordinary, competent, common sense people, if you're tired of the stupidity, if you're tired of waiting for someone else to fix it, if you feel like something has to be done, then you are who I'm looking for. I don't know exactly where this goes yet, but I know where it starts. And it starts right here with us talking and communicating and organizing, and with us building something that finally represents the people. And if any of that resonates with you, then stick around and like and follow and share and tell your buddies and drop a comment down below. That's all we're doing here is stirring up the conversation, but toward a purpose instead of just further communication of us all looking around, nodding at each other like things are going terrible. Yeah, I know. We all know that. We all know what's going on. I don't want to be just another voice screaming about what's going wrong. We all know the truth now. Anyone who wants to know the truth knows it. Now, before I wrap this up today, I want to read something. I've seen this quote several times floating around online. It's attributed to a gentleman named Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Now, whether he said it, whether someone else paraphrased it, whether it was written 50 years ago or 5 minutes ago, that really doesn't matter to me. What matters is that it resonates. And I think it describes exactly where we are today. So allow me to read it to you. And I quote, "The most terrifying force of death comes from the hands of men who wanted to be left alone. They try so very hard to mind their own business and provide for themselves and those they love. They resist every impulse to fight back, knowing the force and permanent change of life that will come from it. They know that the moment they fight back, their lives, as they have lived them, are over. The moment the men who wanted to be left alone are forced to fight back, it is a form of suicide. They are literally killing off who they used to be, which is why, when they are forced, these men who wanted to be left alone fight with unholy vengeance against those who murdered their former lives. They fight with a drive that cannot be fathomed by those who are merely play acting at politics and terror. True terror will arrive at those people's doors, and they will cry, scream, and beg for mercy. But it will fall upon deaf ears of the men who just want to be left alone." Now, I'm not reading that because I'm talking about violence. I'm not reading that because I'm romanticizing conflict. I'm reading it because the spirit of it hits the nail on the head. It is men and women who just want to be left alone who are being pushed right now, and they're being pushed hard by people who only have power because nobody pushes back. And the truth is, the people who built this country, this province, this city, the people who keep it functioning, the people who show up every day and live in reality instead of ideology, those people are reaching their limit. And we are running out of room to pretend that this isn't happening. I'm going to leave it there, folks. Thanks for listening. See you next time.